the adages. This is one of the things I want to touch on with Bishop Sparks tonight.
The adage is only when it is dark enough can you see the stars.
That uh thing is, I've seen a lot of posts about you can't dim my light. Um, the lights are shining in the darkness, and I'm going to talk to Bishop Sparks, and we're gonna maybe talk about what it's like to have our light on a lampstand instead of standing in the dark and darkness. Because a lot of times, a lot of this uh God, what is it called? I don't want to call it's not true woke. A lot of this stuff this sad display we've seen since 2020, and we come out of lockdowns, talk about being lights in the darkness, and um she just exemplifies it for me. Um, I don't like this woman. I think she is a liar. Um, you tell one lie. I mean, that you test the spirits. If it's of God, it's always true. You can't. It can't be a lie if it's of God. It just can't happen. So, I'm convinced that these people, whether it's Trump or Harris or do what diddy, dumb diddy do, or any of those elites, they're a different breed of human or whatever than we are, as far as me sitting in my living room, you sitting in your living room, and us all sipping coffee and talking. They don't know what it's like to be us, and we don't know what it's like to be them. So you have to really, really, really be careful on what you follow with what these people are saying, because they're playing chess games, they're using us as pawns, and they don't care what happens to us in the process. Meaning they don't even care if we lose our life. Um, so with that said, there's something that I came across last night. I was looking for stuff about the light and the darkness, and this woman has tried to open up in her way a conversation about trauma and what it is and what it isn't and all that. And she doesn't know what she's talking about. Um,
Yep.
And
so
so, unless we've
we're
had
just
serious
gonna do this because I am really upset at this. I have firsthand experience seeing a little glimpse of what happens with inner city trauma, with the effects of it. This woman sits here. I'll stop the video and talk when it's irking me. All right, but no, no, um, she's irking me. I understand and I appreciate that she's opening a conversation and it's about black people having trauma. And I know I'm white and I don't, I shouldn't be talking on this. However, I have spoken a little bit to somebody about the trauma and stuff, and I'm supposed to get together with him too. I'm just trying to figure out how to get both videos up on my OBS where we're talking back and forth and I can hear while OBS is running. Um, so and get the videos, not just one or the other. Excuse me. So, anyways, this woman is talking about trauma to this black person that does work with inner city youth. Oh, and the other thing we have to take in consideration when they're speaking is the geographical area. Um, like up here where I am in the Northeast, it's a little bit different than down south. It's a little bit different what happens in Ohio. It's a little different than what happens in California. California is its own, you know, these people are their own breed. California is its own, you know, living, breathing entity in and of itself, too. So, you know, some of the stuff that happens with all these people, it's not us, okay, per se. But as far as trauma goes, it affects us all the same way. I have complex PTSD, and I am a little angry about how much knowledge this woman does not have about the effects of PTSD and what it does. Keep in mind, I said the effects. I mean the effects on the human being itself, the person who is traumatized. I'm not talking about systemic trauma. They're more or less trying to discuss systemic trauma by putting personal trauma into it. And I think this is where we're getting a little bit of the hang up because systemic trauma and systemic and personal trauma, the way it affects the person now in the here and now are two different things. Anyways, I'm going to just play the video and then do my thoughts in the process.
Yep.
And so, unless we've had serious intervention, it will go on generationally. And trauma is it is something that is almost like a physical barrier. Trauma can handcuff you.
Oh yeah. But
Right?
and the wild part about it is
No, trauma doesn't handcuff you. It renders you when you're involved in trauma and then especially when you're in the flashbacks, it renders you totally immobile. It doesn't just handcuff you. You can't move. You don't know what to do, where to go, how to do it. That's why when you're experiencing a flashback or you know, I experience an emotional flashback, you put your hands on the table. I'm in the here, I'm in the now, I'm surrounded by things that are not going to hurt me. So it's not just a handcuffing, it's a whole body freezing.
is like I have a youth program right in Liberty City, and we have about 800 kids on a year-round basis. Been doing it. This is our 29th year, and those kids that are in my program, if there's somebody gets shot or murdered in the neighborhood in Liberty City, 9 times out of 10, they're one of my kids' little brother, and so it nobody.
Okay, now here he's explaining in the inner city. I don't know where they are. I think they're in Los Angeles. I'm not sure. But what he just described, and it's usually one of his kids, it makes me want to just cry my eyes out that these kids are experiencing this on a daily basis in broad daylight, even. Harris, on the other hand, is shaking her head like she understands. Oh, yeah, I know. No, this woman doesn't know. Just by her reaction, oh, yeah, it's so sad. It's not sad, it's terrifying. It's angering. There's no sadness about it at this point. You know, we got a whole country, a whole world full of these kids being traumatized on a daily basis. Oh, it's so sad. No, that's what her whole head shaking is so sad. And notice she's doing the same head shaking she did when she was discussing Thurman abortion when she lost her life. Oh, it was so sad and tragic, but it was all due to it was all due to Georgia laws. And no, it wasn't due to Georgia laws. It was due to medical malpractice. Because at that point it became life or death for the mother, and somebody dropped the ball and waited 20 minutes to go in and get extra tissue out that was causing sepsis, and the mother died that way. It had nothing to do with the laws and with the higher ups. They shouldn't. She should keep her nose out of that one. Okay, and the fact that they're a black family on top of it, and she's, oh, I know how much it is. No, this lady is the way she's doing this. I want to cry every time I hear him talking about this one part. I want to cry. And I'm angry. I'm angry these kids are going through this. She don't get it. It's not sad. It's angering. It's our kids are being mistreated and subjected to things they shouldn't be subjected to at their age.
There's no programming, anything of
Those children.
for those children because they're living just like you say. They're living in this traumatized household. Or they just saw their brother get murdered.
They've been to
in
more
the, in the
funerals.
Yes, they've been living in this traumatized household and they saw more, you said brothers, I'm going to say, of their, not their people, but their friends, their family, murdered. They're human beings just like me. So I'm going to talk in that sense. Okay, they saw their friends, brothers, literal brothers and sisters, mothers. We had a mother and a child just gunned down that they're extraditing from. They're getting from Puerto Rico. He ran to Puerto Rico. It's not cool, and that was down in the inner city where I live. This week that happened. Okay, look at this woman's face. Oh, it's so sad. Oh, yeah, no, no, that's not the face you need. She, I'm sorry, but now she's gonna try to relate to this, what he's talking about, and there's no way. I don't think this woman really is relating too much to this. Um, honestly, I have my own feelings about her and the whole whatever happened with this other person that has traumatized a countless number of children and adults that is in jail right now. And she has that whole bunch behind her in her campaign. So, and she's been around in LA since the 2009s. That's another story. Another story. I'll mention it a little bit later. But the things that I've heard, the hearsay, um, about how crooked the cops there are when they're getting paid out when somebody dies. Oh, let's just say it's a shooting, drive-by shooting. But we'll get into that at the end.
front
Of
yard.
somebody who was under the age
Yeah,
of 25 when they died. I know.
exactly,
I know.
exactly. Every Saturday it's a
I
new
know.
funeral. It's like going to the
They have a
nightclub.
whole protocol for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like literally,
And put
somebody
the
dies,
T-shirt on the
everybody
shirt.
gets ready. They have like an
Yeah.
assembly line of things that happen.
Eh,
An assembly line of things that happen. No, no, no. The assembly line is you going out there to march. No justice, no peace. You know what I'm saying. It's not an assembly line of things that happen. They put on shirts and yeah, they do that because they love these people. They're remembering these people. But this has nothing to do with the trauma itself side of it or the dumbing. This is the dumbing down of society done by the elites, which this woman is an elite. And like I said, different breed of person. She doesn't care about anybody but her. She doesn't care who gets hurt in the process. So she doesn't know what she's talking about. He knows more what he's talking about. I can see where he's coming from, but he stops talking after a while. Like this, I mean, but he's still trying to have the conversation. He's downplaying the shirts and stuff because that's not the issue. The issue is the trauma that is in the present with these children and these families.
as
I know.
yeah, T-shirt or
I
it's
know.
like a proud
I
thing.
know.
And but then just like to your point, those people are somewhat traumatized, but they became immune to it. But technically, you're traumatized.
So to your point, The way that I've always talked about it, like post-traumatic stress disorder is what it is, right? So
doesn't know
like
what
an
she's talking
oversimplified
about.
way of thinking post-traumatic stress disorder is like, so imagine there's a busy street and you're about to cross the street and a Mack truck comes barreling down. Because it's part of our species survival thing, that you'll produce something without even thinking about it that will cause you to jump back. If every day you're walking across that street and at some time that truck comes down, at some point, because you're overproducing this thing, at some point you're going to look at that truck and you're going to keep walking.
That is absolutely 100% wrong. Maybe in the systemic way, where I have to understand woke a little bit better, the real woke movement, not this fake stuff that she had going on. That is wrong. What's going to happen? That truck's going to come barreling down. I have trauma due to a car accident. I'm afraid to cross the street with that truck coming down. I have a street right out here. I cross it to go to my doctor's. Okay? That truck comes barreling down. I'm pulling myself back off the road, off the sidewalk even. I won't even go on the sidewalk. And it can be way down. And I still won't step out into that street. And I'm 55, and this trauma happened when I was 2.5. I mean, 1.5. Okay? Okay? And then the next day, the truck comes barreling down again, then barreling down. You know what happens? What happens is a person that suffers from trauma actually freezes up. Okay? And then what tends to happen is they start getting angry because they want to cross the street and that truck keeps hitting them. All right? And it makes them more angry, more frustrated. And it builds an anger. And then suddenly you're trying to figure out how can we resolve and fix this. So you go to these people, these yahoos, and you say, okay, we need something done. All right. Now I'm going to take the pressure off of my local mayor because I don't think it's in the cities. I think the corruption can start in the cities because of the way maybe the state government treats them. And yes, that's the way they treat them. So it's either put up or shut up and get out. Okay? But as far as the city mayor and all them, they try to do right by their citizens usually. Usually. Now, what I would do is I would say, Danny, this road is unsafe. Can we put a sidewalk in? You do everything in your power to stop that truck from barreling down the road at you first. That's the first thing you do when you have trauma. And then, if the city stuff doesn't work and you can't get the city to act or them to act, you start taking matters into your own hands. Okay, they're not helping me. Nobody's helping me. I'm going to start taking this into my own hands. And look what we got. We got guns in kids' hands. They're taking the situation into their own hands because of their trauma. The truck keeps barreling down and barreling down and barreling down, and they've had enough. They've had a freaking enough. So her sitting there goes, oh, you become numb. No, you don't. Next door, you know what happens? You know what happens with this trauma? All right, next door, I don't get along with those people next door, but I understand them. Okay? Everything, I'm a white person. If I don't like their actions, automatically I'm a racist because of this woman and this woman, what she represents, the whole people she represents. I'm automatically racist when I don't like her actions. No, I grew up with trauma, with my mom, my dad trying to murder my mom, and it was handled a different way because I was out in the countryside and I was sheltered with things. These kids are not in the inner city, have no shelter. Their parents are forced to work and not be home when they get home. And then they say, "Oh, it takes a village," and then all of a sudden they're putting the responsibility in the and when something goes south, it's all on these people's head. But I understand why it's on these people's head because you got this woman sitting there thinking she knows exactly what happens with trauma. You numb down. No, you don't numb down. You fight back. You fight back with a vengeance. And you get what we got in our streets. Lady next door, her son, I'm not without a heart. I don't like her. I don't, her actions, okay? I'm not without a heart. Her son was gunned down in the city with his girlfriend, okay? She comes here to get a better life for her kids. She has 6 other kids, or 5 or something, all right? Now, she is traumatized. Those kids are traumatized next door. And the government's sitting there saying, "Oh, it's because of systemic racism," not really realizing that systemic racism is not me being racist towards her. It's the government being racist. We did nothing wrong. People like her don't know trauma. So what happens? She's teaching her kids that you take somebody out before they take you out because these people aren't doing a damn thing about it. That's what the trauma is doing. That bus keeps coming, that bus keeps coming, and you're sitting there going, "How am I going to stop this bus?" Well, it goes above and beyond, okay, let's teach our kid how to stay out of jail, to let's teach our kid to stay alive. They're literally, these inner city youth are literally fighting for their lives. And she's trying to pull this bullshit and tell you that you're going to be numbed down with it. There's 2 different traumas going on here, folks. She's talking about systemic racism. But I don't see how anybody's numbed down from the trauma from that because we got people in our streets. We got these people that are really angry that are acting out. Okay, you act out. When you back somebody into a corner, you act out. You try to fight and you try to get out of it no matter what. You're backed into a corner. So instead of teaching her kids how to stay out of jail, she's teaching her kids, you know what? If somebody touches you, you take them out before they take you out. That is what is going on in our streets today. To the T. They're fighting for their lives. And all these people are saying, "I don't see it." Oh, you're becoming numbed down. How's that numbed down? This really upset me last night listening to this bullshit. She has no clue what. Okay, she's talking about the dumbing down of society. She's talking about exposing us to sexual things over a period of time to make it seem like it's normal, like what's done in the entertainment industry. Notice, you had, like the honeymooners way back when, they might have had undertones of certain racism remarks and, entertainment industry stuff, but they weren't swearing. You didn't see the women in bed with the men in these shows, nothing. You come up gradually and you're seeing more nudity, more swearing, more acceptance. And that's what the dumbing down she's talking about. The dumbing down of society, just seeing that it's normal. It's normal in our streets. Oh, yeah, it's normal in our streets. Oh, that's okay. That's what she's talking about. So he's not getting it. No. What trauma does, the results of trauma, the result of that truck keep coming at you, keep on a daily basis, is you're going to fight back. Your fight or flight motion. Either you're going to run, and you're going to get out of Dodge, or you're going to pick up that gun and you're going to fight back. And as far as there's a lot more to this conversation. They go into the gun violence, but she doesn't mention that a lot of these inner city kids have ghost guns and guns that are purchased off the street as opposed to legally. So they don't go into that. They don't they don't go into that. So the woman next door, I have a heart. I understand it. I send my daughter off to school every day. I love you. You're going to have a great day. I don't say have a great day. I say you're going to have a great day. I love you. We've had trauma here. We have had trauma inflicted on us by the people next door because they're in a traumatic lifestyle. Get it? They were victims of a violent crime, so they're victimizing other people before they can be victimized again. Because it hurts too much inside. And this one doesn't fucking care. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's so sad. No, it's angering that these kids have to see this on a daily basis. So that's I had to get this out.
Yeah, you are. No
You're
question
gonna keep
about it.
walking
No question about it.
because
So now she's trying to hypnotize. Oh, let's hypnotize you with my eyes and my hands. Listen, she's talking to somebody who has kids that have had trauma. And what's she offering as a solution to the dilemma of these kids getting help and these kids getting the guns out of their hands and the right teaching to keep them out of jail? Okay, because even in the state of Connecticut, even if you threaten to do bodily harm with intent to put the fear of God in somebody for their life, that something's going to happen to them, it is considered a felony and it is assault. They're not thinking about that at this point. They're thinking about, if I don't take them out, they're going to take me out. I'm going to do it. I mean, I think in the process of going through what me and Emily have been going through, one of the girls actually stated it exactly that way to me when my daughter was trying to be friends with her. You take them out before they take you out. You get on a level of systemic racism, which is racism within this whole elite thing. And if you look at that famous person that just got arrested in a lot of his videos, you'll see. I mean, there's one video I just sent to Bill Bean that it he's right. Bill's right. It started way before this. It started in the 1940s, 1930s, and there's a lot of if you look at those videos, there's a lot of under themes with racist things going on. Um, it's pretty sad actually to see. And but she really made me angry. She's talking about trauma. She doesn't know trauma. And you know what? I don't know inner city trauma, but I did see the results of it living next door to me for 5 years. And it's not a happy thing and it's not a good thing. The kids are basically neglected when these mothers have their kids taken from them. These mothers have other children that they can't really focus on because they're focusing on the loss of their loved ones. And you know what? All they're doing is shouting in the streets asking these people to do something about it. But instead of doing something about it, these people are saying, "Oh, let's get to the root cause. It has to be way back when." Uh, Granted, way back when didn't help. But what's happening in the here and now? What could be, what should be, what is? You got to look at the here and now. What's going on right now? What's going on right now is you see an increase in violence because they've had enough. These people have had enough, and it's all inner city youth, honestly, and you can't blame them. You can't. they're turning a deaf ear. And she sits there and she says at the end of this video, I don't know if I captured it on here. Oh, I've had many mothers sit in my office at the DA's office and in I think LA is where she was. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. And they sit there and say everybody else, nobody's caring. They're treating it like it's nothing, like we're another statistic. Well, in the high profile, that other realm, from some of the stuff that I saw and some of the stuff that I heard, and that goes back to somebody would die in that realm of what's going on, and they would pass it off as they would report it on the news as a drive-by shooting instead of what it really was to hide the fact that this other person did it. And it happened at a party. So they paid cops off to sweep it under the rug. And this witch was in that whole group. Okay, so she's sitting there. I had it done to me one time. This is a perfect example. I had a boyfriend that I really cared about. He could have been the father of my child when I was 21. And I had this girl I would sit there and I'd cry to, pretending that thinking that she was my friend, about how at the end of the relationship with this other person, and it all collapsed because of what the scenario, things don't last, and that type of lifestyle, um, and what I was doing. But so it was breaking down, and I'm like, I love him so much, I don't want to lose him, and I'm crying my eyes out to this girl, and she's like doing exactly what Harris is doing here. Yeah, I know, and it was terrible, and holding me, and as I poured out my heart to her, and then I find out that she slept with not only him but his friend as well at the same time. And this was before I even went to her. So this woman is doing exact same thing as what that person did. She's pretending, "Oh yeah, I'm so sorry," But you know what? She's responsible for the fucking chaos. And it makes me sick because people don't see it.
And that literally, that's part of what happens with post-traumatic stress disorder, that your body, because your body has a natural instinct, it's part of this, again, the survival of the species, to protect yourself, but at some point you overstimulate this thing.
And when it's overstimulated, when you're going through the trauma, what happens? You tend to disassociate, like you're not there. It's not a numbing down. It's not a and that's in the moment. It's not after, it's not before, it's in the moment when it's happening. Kind of like the drug GHB not letting you remember what happened to you when your date hard.
And it just makes you numb.
Yes, no question about it.
Right?
Yep.
What we want for our
He looks a
children
little
is
bit
that,
more uncomfortable now.
not that when they went to sleep at
just
night they were
described it
hearing
totally
gunfire.
wrong.
Talk about a people who have suffered so much pain
He's like,
as a
yeah,
result of
I don't
injustice.
believe you now.
The debate is Kamala the cop.
I know.
Kamala the cop. She's gonna put people in jail because that's what she did in California.
When I started, it was during the height of the crack epidemic. And then there was also a lot of gang activity in Los Angeles.
See? And that's where I stopped it. Because this whole bullshit about that's coming out with this high profile person that's in jail that's trying to get out of jail. Um some of the things that I've seen with him is totally nasty and disgusting. Um that was all in that time too. There are things that are going on with the elites that we don't know about. But the fact that she just did what she did about trauma, she downplayed it. She downplayed it to make it, oh, you're just numb. That's wrong. That's part of the injustice of our society is that think right there. That's an injustice. That's not justice. She did not. She just went on. He just went on saying, "Oh, Kamala the cop." She just went on to like, build herself up on how great she is dealing with all this stuff. No, she was not great dealing with it. There's a lot of snags, and there's only so much you can do with laws. But she didn't say to this guy, "Hey, look, what do you need? What do you need me to do? What do your kids need?" First of all, your kid needs. I like what we have in Hartford. We have a oh God, what is it called? It's a whole youth program that gives kids, and it's a lockdown program too. So the kids go in and they're in there and they're monitored by people. But with the recent thing about the jerk, that the disgusting thing that is in jail right now, how do you know who you can trust with your kids too? That's another thing these people are going with. The other thing, these people, I mean, inner city youth. I'm sorry if I use the wrong wording, and I do that because that's the way I talk. It's not the way I I don't want to insult people. It's just the way I talk. I'm 55 years old. It's hard to change your stripes. Okay, so when I'm talking in the moment and I say something like that, please don't take offense to it. But um it's hard to know who to entrust your child with even. And she's suggesting that, oh, children go into jail, go come out and they're labeled the bad kids, so they expect to go to jail. In my town, that's not usually the case. You do get your rookie cops that the seasoned cops have to train better. But for the most part, I mean, when I moved here, we had cops on bicycles going around talking to the youth, playing basketball, everything, getting to know them so that they weren't afraid of them. Because people are teaching their kids to be afraid of the police. Not all policemen are corrupt. I get it. Like in other parts of the country, you got a lot of corruption with certain police forces. But I think you have to take those on a case by case basis. Not all of them are LA police. Not all of them are like, you know, sorry, Pike thing, but not all of them had corrupt sheriffs in office either through the years. All right, we've had a couple bad apples through the years, um, but for the most part, our police officers would rather educate our children than arrest them. I get highly offended at police officers, people being afraid of them. Um, there's a reason, but it's not. You can't bring it into another town. Is what I'm saying. You can't, like with Hartford. You can't bring Hartford's reputation with their police force into Holland, let's say, or into a place that normally you have to get to know your local police. And that's one thing I can say for our town. Our local police are very involved with the community to show that they're not scary people, that they're in it to help us. They're not in it to arrest everybody. God, that's too much paperwork, you know? Way too much. So, this woman came from a place where there were very sleazy police officers, from what I understand. But you got to give it to police officers too. They suffer trauma just like everybody else does. You're sitting there saying deep on the police and acting out against them. They're suffering trauma too through that. See where the victims become the oppressors? That's what's happening. The victims become oppressors themselves because they're so angry and they're going to hurt you first before you can hurt them. And that's where our country is leading if we don't get it together as a people underneath the elites. We're not the same breed of humans. It's gonna really get and not fear, not to fear, not don't fear Trump. It's not gonna really change. The way I see it, I see Trump overhauling the departments to make it more of a business fashion in government, you know, with the departments than it is political. That's what I see him doing. This woman, you cannot listen to her because you cannot rely on her words. Just the fact that she took Thurman and threw her under the bus for her own to lift herself up means that that's what she's doing with everything else. And that's the claim down in Florida with FEMA. She wasn't the president. She didn't have any business going down there. They didn't want to talk to her. But she put herself in the middle to lift herself up. And they all do it. So I'm not going to sit there and put her down without saying, Trump's not, he's imperfect too. He's an elite. They have a different lifestyle and different agenda than we do down here. If you want to look at the ladder or the pyramid, even with the, you know, how they have that pyramid with the different layers, they're on the point of the pyramid and we're down on the bottom. That's where we are. They're a different breed of human being. Their world and our worlds are very different. They deal with things differently. They don't care what happens to the people on the bottom of the pier. We are expendable to them. So all this fighting in the streets that this woman has had you do since or the Democrats have had y'all do in the streets is all for naught because they don't care who got hurt, who got murdered. They don't care. You don't hear from Patrice Cullors anymore. Why? She's totally out of the limelight. Maybe she did have a pure heart, and now, I mean, she got a lot of money. Started using it the way all these elites use it to buy houses. She's not stupid. She saw. She see this guy that just got arrested have 4 mansions, 5 mansions. Kamala Harris has 3 homes. Heck, if she got 3 homes, some of them aren't being used. Take some of your immigrant families and house them there. Why? Why aren't you doing that? But you expect a city to take in thousands of immigrants and be able to sustain all of them and give them the American dream, which is not going to happen. That was cruel. Okay. If I always say, if New York City had that many jobs and that much affordable housing to bus as many immigrants as they bus there whole year, we would have had a mass exodus of American citizens going to New York City for those jobs and that affordable housing. What was you think she's for your daughter, the woman, right? What was she thinking? Taking these women with children at the border and letting them come in with people who have the potential to traffic them and not making sure they were with family instead of somebody trafficking them. She didn't care about those women and children, just like she doesn't care about your daughter or me. She doesn't care because she's not the same breed of humans as we are. Their mold is totally different. So what she's doing right here, talking about trauma and the traumatic stuff, she's it, she doesn't care. That person, they said that there's an underground, and the elites have it. It's not just that person. Trump promised he was going to drain the swamp when in his first election. How is he doing that? Oh, he took Epstein out. Now he took out another one. And to know where the swamp is and where the waters run, you have to get your feet wet and you got to go in those waters and find out where they are. So if he was seen on Epstein Island, well, so he was seen on Epstein Island. But he had to know what he was getting into before he could drain it and eliminate start draining it. I don't know. Maybe that's his way of draining the swamp. Just like Biden, his way of a peaceful you know, when Trump left office, he didn't mince words. He didn't show he wasn't two-faced about anything. He was upset, and he showed it to everybody, whether we liked it or not. What, you want somebody to show their untrue selves to people? We know what we get with Trump. Whereas Biden in this one promised us a peaceful transfer of power. Okay, they're in the White House sitting buddy buddy with Trump, having sipping their tea or whatever they're doing. Oh, smiling, writing each other letters. And then Biden okays long range missiles to UK to hit Russia with. There's your peaceful transfer of power. So he's going to make a mess for Trump to pick up, if at all, because we don't know what Russia's planning to do to us now. I'm not saying be afraid, but I'm saying beware of who you're listening to. Because I have made it my life to get out of my trauma, fear based. One of my missions is to get out of that trauma, fear based, reactionary person that I have been and I was, to being the woman that I'm created to be by God. This woman right here on that you're seeing is not teaching you to be who you were created to be. She is teaching you that it's wrong to be who you are and you need to turn around and make yourself into a different person. Totally. Anyways, it really made me upset with what she said about trauma in that bus, because she doesn't understand what's going on in these inner cities. That means, and keep that bus coming at a person, they're either going to fight or they're going to fly. Your flight or fight. And when that bus is coming right at you each and every time, you're going to freeze up at first and not know what to do. You're not going to be numb. It's called freezing up. No numbness about it. The dumb down, the numbness is coming with these elites, what they've been doing to us for centuries, for years. This isn't new. None of that do what diddy dum diddy do stuff is new. They even had it in the ancient Roman times. You you don't get it. These people are a different breed of humans than we are, and they don't care. This man needed Harris to say what she was going to implement so that these kids can come up and out. She goes on in this whole interview, let's blame the education. Education is blamed. Oh, because white people pulled their funding out, and I don't know. I'll have to look this up, but this is white people pulled their funding out of schools because black people started attending them. That's not that simple. Not that simple. I know here in the school system it's been a challenge because we do have mothers trying to bring their babies out of these trauma-based lifestyles from the inner cities. And the mind think is you take people out before they can take you out. So you got kids jumping kids now. Okay, this is what is being and through no fault of their own. It's just the way trauma is taught teaches people. Trauma is teaching people. The people aren't teaching people. The emotions and the effects of trauma on the everyday lives of these people down in our tier is what's doing this. The trauma is teaching the person. We don't need to be Cain in the Garden of Eden, where we're reacting off of our emotions solely. We need to be able, we need our actions to be upright so that we don't fall into the Cain of the world where we're longing to be something we're not, where we're reacting off our emotions. Because it's said, God did say that if you are not happy and if you get really depressed, discontent, whatever, sin is crouching in the corner waiting to pounce on you. So if you let your emotions control you, you're more apt to sin. And these people are all about having your emotions control you or not control you. Both sides. Your head has to control you. Your emotions tell you something's wrong or right. But in the end, you can't let that overly tell you what's wrong or right. Because deep down, there's a part past our emotions where God has put it in our hearts about wrong and right in our DNA. So we need to move past our emotions and listen to what's beyond them and then react off of those things instead of our emotions. Trauma gets us stuck in our emotions, in our fight and flight, in our that bus is going to come at me. These people aren't helping me, so I'm going to take matters into my own hands because I am going to survive no matter what the cost.